Hello, my name is Baron J, and I am here with the Giving While Black podcast. We are here to uplift, amplify, and celebrate Black philanthropy, and we are here to celebrate you. Our special guest today, we're so excited about having Cherelle James. Cherelle James is the Alumni President for Elizabeth City State University. And I know that the last couple of years, there's been some shine on HBCUs, and rightfully so. There's so many wonderful institutions all around the country have been doing amazing work, educating our people for centuries, literally. And today we're here with someone who's going to not only shine the light, but also share how you can get involved as an alumni of one of these great historically Black universities all around the country. Can't wait to hear from Cherelle James, Giving While Black. Good morning. My name is Baron J. Damon, and I am the host of Giving While Black podcast. We're here to amplify, uplift, and celebrate. And today we have a wonderful guest. And before I introduce her, you know how sometimes you meet people and as business owners and entrepreneurs, and you meet a lot of people and a lot of good people in my work. But sometimes you meet people who you just, you feel like there's a fast friendship in the potential, right? I call them FFs, right? Fast friendships. And this young lady we have today, Cherelle James, might be one of my fast friends. We just recently met each other a couple of weeks ago, but Cherelle, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Do you think we have some FF potential?
Listen, I was sitting over here smiling like, I think we do, because every time we talk, we find something else that we're like, oh, okay, we got to get back together about that.
Yes, absolutely. So we're so excited about having you. And a shout out to you, because this was kind of last minute. We had some guest that was not able to make it, and I asked you, and I wanted to have you actually around the end of August, September, but you stepped up to the plate like you always do. And so thank you for bailing a brother out and coming on the show today.
Hey, we got to be there, helpers of one another.
That's right. So let me tell you a little bit about Cherelle, and I'll let her speak for herself, because she is a dynamic entrepreneur, but she is a CEO and profit strategist. She has a podcast that I just recently found out about herself. She is the managing partner for My Local CFO. And if you're in our area, I know people listening all over the world, right? We're believing that, Cherelle, right? But locally, if you're in this area, is a business firm that provides virtual CFO services. This podcast that she has, she was just telling me about this, is about finances and helping couples. And so there's a lot of wonderful things that her and her husband actually do in this community. And I don't want to steal her thunder, but there's some things philanthropically that we're going to talk about, and that's why she is here today. So, Cherelle, thank you so much for being here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and who is Cherelle James?
Who is Cherelle James?
Yeah.
So I have to say, number one, I'm a military brat,
okay.
And I can say that. I am. I grew up families of military. All of my family's in the military, and I decided to go in. And right when I was going to go in, I did not, because my husband now said, "Hey, I got other plans," and so I did not go in myself. But I want to say thank you to all those who serve.
Yeah.
Number two, one thing that I say in every room, and people look at me crazy, especially in the business space when I say this, when we talk about what's the number one thing that you're good at or your best thing,
yeah,
I am the best auntie in the world.
Okay, all right.
The best auntie in the world, hands down.
That. Yeah.
No one can beat me. But outside of
and they call you a special just auntie.
auntie or
okay.
They live in different U.S. So Auntie.
Okay.
Yes. And outside of that, I am a businesswoman. You know, I've had My Local CFO. We've been in business with My Local CFO with my husband as the co-partner for over 12 years. And that podcast that you were talking about, More Than I Do, is where that came from, us teaching about being in business and being married, because next year we'll be married 20 years. Okay. So we figured we had a little something we could say and teach somebody, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then a philanthropist, which is where I'm here to talk to you today about, through a lot of initiatives, a lot of things that we do in the community, I do in the community, a lot of things that I just come up with concepts and get people to come along with me to make sure that I truly believe that my mom taught me a long time ago, you always leave a space better than when you found it. Yeah. And so whether it's my family, the community, the world, I want to make sure it's better off, before I got here. When I leave, it's better off in whatever I can do.
Yeah. And I heard the same thing, from my parents as well. And it's great advice, because that's what our goal is, right? We want to be able to leave a legacy. We're not here just to occupy space, right? Yes. We have a purpose, and there's a plan for all of our lives. And I personally believe that God has a plan for our lives. And you definitely have a plan, and you've been displaying that and demonstrating that along the way. So tell me a little bit about philanthropy in your life. How did you get started with this philanthropic bug that you have?
That's a very good question. So I talk about me a military brat first when you ask me who am I, because my grandparents, my mother was the oldest of her siblings, and she had me at 18. Okay. And so I grew up in the house with the youngest. My uncle was 13, right? So between 18 and 13 was in the house. So I grew up kind of as the baby in the house. And my grandparents at that time, my grandfather had retired, and we lived in Warner Robins, Georgia. So shout out to Warner Robins, Georgia, Robins Air Force Base. Okay. I'm a Georgia peach, and I take that everywhere I go in life. But I say all of that and I bring that up because that's where I learned. Yeah. So when I look at my grandparents, their house was the house that if you needed anything, kids in the community, she always cooked those big pots of spaghetti. My grandfather's hobby outside of working on the base, on the flight line, his hobby was rebuilding cars. So he used to rebuild cars and give them to the single mothers in the community so that they can get their kids to where they needed to be. Yeah. My grandmother was a teacher in the community, and the kids would get in trouble and say, "Don't call my mama, take me to my grandma's room." It wasn't their grandmother, but that's who she was in the community. Yeah. And then my mother had that. I remember her, I never walked to school, but she would stop and pick up every kid along the way. Got to a point that the kids would just come to our house. So she was taking 2 and 3 trips to the school. Wow. To make sure the kids didn't have to walk, especially on cold days or really hot days in Georgia and things of that nature. So I think that although that's not giving in money, I do believe that that's planting that seed of philanthropy, of looking after your community and giving back in the ways that you can.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I'm sitting here, at times I'm talking to guests and I start getting chill bumps because I can feel it, right? I can feel, and I'm thinking about that time period and how powerful it was in our communities. And there seems to be some of that have been lost, right? And that's what really this podcast is about. See if we can get some of that back. What do you think about what happened, in our communities that's dissipated to some degree?
I'm going to use the word assimilation.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, and I don't use it in a bad way. So let me be very clear. I don't mean in a bad way, but anytime there's change, there's good things and bad things that happen. Yeah. And because we are able now as African Americans, we are able to access way more than our ancestors could access, right? That we've become a lot of times we forgot about some of those things because they seemed old or they seemed that makes me too Black, or I'm trying to fit in here in the culture of business and things of that nature. And so we've become what I call a garage society. We just drive into our garages, have no idea who our neighbors are, and drive out. And if it doesn't concern us specifically, then we're not concerned about it. And that's not who we, as a culture, that's not who we are. I believe in a village, the old African proverb, it takes a village. I believe it takes a village. And my success and my upbringing, and even today, proves that it still takes a village.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that answer, because I think, but there's still that desire for us to get back to that.
Yes.
And sometimes we just don't know. Sometimes we get lost. We just don't know how to get back. We got to put a GPS in, right, to get us back on track. And the work that we do in our communities, hopefully, will be that GPS for some people, right, to get us back and show how important that is. So your grandmother, everybody knew who she was.
Everybody, my grandmother, my grandfather, even to this day. My grandfather died. My grandmother was in the house, and she hears these lawnmowers going outside. And she goes outside, and it's an older man with some younger kids that he was mentoring to cut her grass because of something my grandfather did for him years ago. So that's that legacy. When we talk about legacy and taking care of each other and making sure that things are better for everyone, that's that legacy that I remember in my head. There's just so many, when I go home, so many stories of how they have helped people that were kids maybe when I was growing up, but are now adults and have their own kids and things of that nature, or grandkids, that impact, I think when we talk about legacy, that impact, being that beacon of light allows for that impact and a ripple effect, right? Because you help that one person, there's a ripple effect that happens with that.
Yeah. Can we say her name?
Yes, absolutely. Marjorie Jenkins. Marjorie Jenkins.
Marjorie Jenkins, we celebrate you, Marjorie Jenkins, and the legacy that you have left, that's being instilled in Cherelle James to this day, and many, many others. So we say your name.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Yes, that's powerful. So you grew up seeing this, so you was around this. And so tell me about, how do you feel, and I like to ask this question, how do you feel being a philanthropist? What kind of feeling does that bring to you?
I don't know until me and you started having some conversations, and I've had conversations about philanthropy and being a philanthropist before, but I don't know if I really just took hold of it and note of it, wait a minute, I'm a philanthropist.
Yeah.
Like I said, growing up the way that I did, I brought the military in. So living overseas and things of that nature, when we didn't live under their roof, because everybody, I told you, military, I got to understand how to take care of each other, right? Because when you're in other countries, it doesn't matter your race. It's all about, we're American,
Right.
in this country. Right. So that further instilled that. And then we were talking, and I was like, wait a minute, I do a lot of things that are definitely making me a philanthropist. But for me, it's just what you do. It's not that I'm doing it so I can be called a philanthropist. I am a philanthropist because of what I do.
Yeah. That's powerful. So I would say, Cherelle James, you are a philanthropist, right? Don't that sound good?
It sounds good. I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna put it on my stuff now, my bio and everything.
Yeah, there you go. Because it's important. So you didn't always see yourself, right? Although you were doing some things for many, many years, and that's how a lot of us are, because we look at quantity over quality. Right? If we're not given X amount of dollars, we can't be in the same category of a Bill Gates, would they give out billions of dollars in their foundation? But guess what? My little change is worth something. We just gave a $250 scholarship to a young lady. She started crying.
Yeah.
It meant something, right? It meant something to her. And that's one of the things that you and I are working on, and that's why I joked earlier about the fast friends, because we have these conversations, we come up with something, but we didn't need a committee, Cherelle, to put some money, to get some money together. I reached out to a couple of people, you doing some things on your side, and we're gonna help support somebody that's in need. So tell us about your position with Elizabeth City University. Elizabeth City State University is my undergrad alma mater.
And I believe in giving back, right? And to what gives to me. So I am who I am because of my grandmother, because of my mother, because of my community, but I'm also am who I am because of Elizabeth City State University and the degree what I learned there, and the degree that I got there, and the people that were there. So in giving back, I am currently the president of the Raleigh-Durham-Wake chapter in North Carolina, largest chapter, alumni chapter for Elizabeth City State University, and we've been able to do some amazing things.
Awesome.
But outside of that, or inside of that rather, in my leadership, and they were doing some of this before I got there, so I can't say it's all me, but we have ramped up scholarships to students that are going there, as well as who are there, because a lot of times we're looking at getting people there, but students need help once they get there as well, so they can sustain and graduate. That's the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
So being able to support the school, you talked about your little bit of dollars, it helps and it matters. Well, being an alumni and giving them back to the Alumni Association, my little bit of dollars are now added to somebody else's little bit of dollars, but then we don't add, we can multiply, right?
Yeah.
There's a multiplication effects that happens. And so I felt it was important. So I sit on the board of directors for the Alumni Association, as well as president of the largest alumni chapter.
Wow, that's outstanding. One thing, I was in the nonprofit space for 20 years. And as a fund developer, that wasn't my primary role, but I did raise money for many years. And one thing that I noticed for Black fundraisers, it was hard for us to go and reach out to our own community and ask for money. And I don't know why. Do you have, and you may not have any thoughts on this, but I'm just thinking about it out loud as I'm listening to you, because we're talking about HBCUs, right? And we're talking about, my wife went to Jackson State, a proud alumni of Jackson State. She is a Tiger through and through. And we support the college, but we want to do more. And we've, actually setting a strategy in place to do more. But for me as a fundraiser, a lot of times, I can ask other people easier than I can ask people in my own community. And I think we do struggle with that sometimes.
We do. I think that, historically, we know that there's been a gap when we talk about a wealth gap, right? And then historically, when we talk about our HBCUs, as we talk about the colleges and why we need to support them, there's been a gap in the support and funding from the state and federal government, as well as from us ourselves. And I think it's because if there's already that gap in society, when you go out and get a job, you're maybe not making the money that you need to make. You're trying to live and survive, a lot of people, and I'm speaking broadly, right? Not one or two, but just broadly. And so then it becomes hard to give back because, as we mentioned earlier, philanthropy is thought of being hundreds of thousands and millions and billions of dollars, and not just my little $25, $100, $300, $400. If I just give that, what can we do with it? We raised funds to take students on a bus trip to Elizabeth City for their winter homecoming and winter open house. So, it's hard sometimes to ask the same people over and over and over again. It sounds like every time I talk to you, I'm asking you to give. And that can be draining on people as well. So I think in your point of having that strategy that you guys are putting together for Jackson State, having a strategy that it's not only just our people, we do need the allies. It takes the village, right? And so then that way, and one, I can see where my money is going. Number two, people want to buy into a bigger vision. They want to be a part of something bigger. That's why people are in football and, baseball, all these sports, because it's something bigger than them that's outlasted them. So if you can show them that as well, typically they can give, but then understanding and meeting people where they are. And I think a lot of times we just say, this is what I need, but we don't take the time to build that relationship to understand where they are. And people nowadays are in what we call what's in it for me as well, So what am I getting back, inside of that? And it doesn't always mean in return money or gifts or anything like that, but it's just, you have to understand what motivates them to give in that way. I think that if we come up with a better strategy and we really understand and we're clear and articulate where those dollars are going and how they're going to impact whatever we're doing, the initiative that's happening, I think we'll have an easier plight when we go to our people, right? Because if I'm counting every dollar, doesn't mean I don't want to give. I just need to make sure that where I'm giving is going to count and impact the way that I need it to impact.
Yeah. That's strong, Cherelle. That's awesome. I love that, because I spent a lot of times in my career training volunteers, training thousands of volunteers. And the one thing that I heard over and over, and the research really bears this out, is people don't mind volunteering if they know what they're going to volunteer for. There's nothing worse than having people to an event to volunteer and they just sitting around twiddling their thumbs like, what I supposed to be doing? Nobody wants to. And so the same way with money, right? I want to know where the money is going. I can't have when we went to our church for the first time, we weren't members, and they did a whole PowerPoint on the money and where the money went. I was like, oh, this is different. I said, there's some transparency here that I really appreciate. I've been to churches that said, oh, $75 so we can get the pavement done. They ain't said nothing else about it. Everybody gave $75. I don't know where the money went, Cherelle. The pavement, never got done, but people want to know, right, where the money went. And so I think,
and you got to be accountable. I think that what you said, the other piece of that is be transparent, have a vision, be strategic, and then be accountable, right? Because if I want you to give again, I need to show you, hey, we did what we said we were going to do. Or if something changes, just let me know something changed. Yeah, exactly. And because we're forgiven. Everybody knows us is forgiven. Yes.
So yeah, that's a good, and I'm thinking about how we could just do a little bit better with that. How we can, we started out with our kind of formal philanthropy, setting up a giving fund or a donor advised fund. And it was great because, and we still have it, we put money in it ourselves, but we realized that we can only do but so much. And we wanted to kind of magnify those gifts. So we started our own foundation, the BK Damon Foundation, so we can bring other people in and share the vision, some of the things that we were doing. And that's what we want to happen, right? If there's something that you are part of, I may not know about it. I want to be able to come aboard and say, let me add my dollars to this. And I know some other people who are also interested in this kind of work, right? Let's add some more dollars to it. And that's what, in terms of the strategy, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to present whatever we have and go out and be okay with asking, and I know you don't like to duplicate, but hey, my father-in-law, him and my mother, Truman and Betty Brightman, they are alumni from Benedict College, right, in South Carolina. And they do your role, right, for the Spartanburg region. And my father-in-law is relentless in asking for money. I said, I was picking at him one day. I said, I know they don't like when they see your number on the call ID because they know you asking for money. But it does take this kind of relentlessness sometimes that we kind of shy away from. And I'm learning that even myself. So thank you for sharing that. What was your biggest misconception around philanthropy? Did you have any misconceptions around it? What were some of your biggest misconceptions?
I think we spoke about it before. The biggest one was that I had to have all these dollars, before I could really make impact. And to say that wasn't saying that I wasn't making impact or I wasn't doing anything and just sitting in a chair, right? I think that to your point earlier, that some people don't know what to do, so they just kind of sit. I wasn't one of those that was just sitting and paralyzed. But again, I didn't look at it as philanthropy because it wasn't on that large scale playing field.
Yeah. Do you have any other philanthropic things that you're working on as well? If you do, please share some.
I do. So I've taken on a project. A mentee of mine invited me to her classroom, and she She is a teacher in a nonprofit school that's attached to Wake County. It's called AMI Kids Infinity Wake.
Okay.
And I went to talk to the kids, which are amazing kids that have been dealt a not so kind hand in life. And the school is kind of a pilot for this nonprofit, so U.S. nonprofit. So they have different programs across the U.S., but they have this pilot program here in Wake County, North Carolina. And they set the intention in the morning. They do affirmations, just a lot of different things that you wouldn't think you would get at school, right? Yeah. The kids took me around after we talked, and I said, what is the one thing that you guys want? Yeah. Right? Because I was like, you could do a pizza party, I could bring you some chips, all that stuff. But what is, again, impact, legacy impact? Yeah. And they had this multi-purpose room, not a really big room. Just think of a regular classroom. And there's like, we want to create this into a creative, artistic library space. And they had like library racks where you could pull them out, right. and books, but they really didn't have a space. That space looked very institutionalized. So it wasn't creative at all. But when you think about kids that are learning life skills and skills to help them cope along the way, to have a room where I can go and sit in a corner and get myself together and maybe do some breathing exercises, or draw, have a table and something that I can draw on, or books that speak to me. Because there are also kids that they're in high school, but they may be reading on levels that are less than high school, right? So you can't bring in a Cat in the Hat book for a high schooler. You need something that looks so that they can be proud in what they're opening and reading, even though it reads on the level that they needed to read. So that's the project that I am working on this summer. I call it my summer project, to hopefully get the library up and running. I've got a wonderful lady, if I could say a shameless plug, Carnella Renee Hill with CR Hill Designs. She has volunteered her time. She's the interior director. She actually did the White House when Obama was there for Christmas. She was one of the interior designers that went and did the Christmas decorations, and the Oval Office were a project of hers. So we've got top-notch people. She's created that design for us now, and she's volunteering that time, and a handful of other people that have rallied around and say, hey, we want to help you with this. So we're always taking on more because we've got some money to. Yeah,
that is so powerful. I love that. So that's the Affinity Wake program, and that's in Raleigh.
Affinity Kids Wake. AMI Kids Infinity Wake. Let me say it again. AMI Kids Infinity Wake. Their school is, for those who are local, it's off of New Bern. The executive director, I just had an event 2 days ago, Legacy and Leadership, where we honored amazing African-American leaders in our community. They're doing amazing things across the world. They're impacting just not the community, but the world. And they were the recipients. So that kicked off kind of the donations, and the recipient and the executive director, Antoine Arnold, would be happy to talk to anyone and show them around the school because they're doing some great things.
I definitely want to put some visibility on that project too. That's something that you and I have talked about, and we definitely want to. I think I've made one connection already, but there are some other people that's coming to mind that hopefully can help with that. So my last question for you, before we go into the rapid fire questions, what keeps you up at night? That problem that you want to solve? And that's a big old question, Cherelle.
That's a huge question. Listen, there's two things that keep me up at night. But there's one major thing. I've got a business thing that keeps me up at night. Being a business owner and having a financial firm is always making sure that we're doing the best for our clients. But that's not the major thing that keeps me up at night. The major thing that keeps me up at night is, am I doing my part? When I leave here, because legacy is built every day, right? What you do day after day is what builds legacy. Legacy is not what's built when you're gone. It's what you've done day after day that you've left when you're gone. And so my question that I always put in front of me, I always look in the mirror, I'm always praying about is, am I doing my part? Am I doing enough? Am I where I need to be?
Yeah. Well, with that being said, can you see my screen?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
we don't do that enough in our community.
Yes.
We don't celebrate enough. As a philanthropic coach and a professional coach, one of the things I talk to my clients about, when is the last time you celebrated something that you accomplished? They say, well, I really don't do that. Why not? Sometimes they don't even see it as worthy to celebrate. And so we want to make sure that people are celebrating.
Thank you.
It's time for some rapid questions. All right. So, we just play some music for you to get you hyped up before, All right. We have a timer and you have 2 minutes to answer these questions. All right.
Okay.
And when you answer if you get them all right or whatever, there's really no kind of right and wrong. But if you finish them, you might get a gift. We have all kinds of Giving While Black swag. You see what I'm wearing, right? Giving While
Yes.
Black shirt. I'm rocking it, right? You see that glister, that shine coming off of it? That's pretty fly, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, are you ready? Let me put my timer on.
So. The pressure is on, but I think I can do it.
Because you've been killing it already. All right. The first question is, how much money do you have to be a philanthropist?
Whatever you have.
What is your proudest moment as a philanthropist?
The impact to others.
What was the hardest thing you ever gave away?
I gave my car away.
Did you?
And I didn't have another car.
Wow.
But I felt it, and I know this is rapid fire, but I gotta say this real quick. And this is not about me at all, but it was one of those moments that I had someone that was working on my car, and I got it back, and I was driving down the road, and I just heard, "Give him your car." And I'm a Christian, so I'm not, you are what you are, but I am. And so I believe God was speaking to me, "Give him your car." And I was like, "What? You sure?" And I went back, and I took my husband with me, and I said, "Hey," and he said he thought that I wanted to sell my car to him.
Wow.
I said, "No, I want to give you my car." And what I found out was he was working on everyone's cars, but he, at that moment, was at a point where he didn't have his own car.
Wow.
And so he would fix everybody's car. Everybody would drive off. His workers would drive off, and then he would try to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to get home today?
That's something.
It taught me never to question again. If you hear it or you feel it or you believe it, what I call your knower deep down inside, do it. Yeah. But I didn't have a car for probably about 7 years, but I never went out without transportation.
That's powerful. That's philanthropy at its best. I mean, at its best. What was the best gift you ever received?
Oh my gosh. Just someone being genuinely, whatever it is. I don't care if it's a little pen, a piece of paper. I love anything anyone gives me that they made or they took time for, right?
Yeah.
But I am grateful for any time anyone thinks about me and does anything.
Okay. What is the best thing you like about being a philanthropist?
Impacting the world, making a difference in someone else's life, and having that ripple effect for change. Good change.
And good change.
Yes. I'm probably over my 2 minutes because of my story. Did we pause upon my story?
I mean, that story was so good, it was worth you getting the buzzer, but it's all right.
Okay.
What is your dream philanthropic project? If you just had the money and the money just poured out the sky and you were like, oh, I'm about to do this. I'm about to make this happen. What would it be?
So I want to do, oh my gosh, Baron, I have so many. But one of the things I want to do some things in Africa. I want to build in Africa, but build for sustainability. So not just go over and build and provide for someone, right? And everything I do, I think that you have to teach, right? You can lead the horse to the water, but if you don't teach them how to drink, you're just going to always have to lead them to the water. Yeah. And drink for them, right? And I know I'm mixing two parables together. I know, audience, I know. But I say that to say, I think that for me, that's a big focus. But then also here, I want to do something in my hometown, my husband's hometown and my hometown, along the same lines. And so there'll be sister cities, and countries.
Yeah. That's powerful. And there's a lot of great work going on in Africa right now. And there's some projects that people like us can definitely be involved in, and I'll share some of those things and some connections I have with that. So the last question is, after about 5-6 minutes, what is your favorite charity and why? What is your favorite charity and why?
Oh my gosh, I can't say because I
there's a lot of them. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
I can't say because I sit on several different boards, so I cannot.
You can't do it.
The whole game, even
you have to push yourself. Okay. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that information. Unfortunately, you did not meet the time, but the stories were so powerful. But I still have something for you that I want you to hear. All right? How about this one? This is one of my favorites.
Bless me!
Okay.
Bless me, guide me. Death has been defeated, here's a victory. Bless me, God, not just for me, but so everyone around me can have everything they need. Let all these folks that's with me, God, have everything they need. Say it again. Bless me, guide me.
So this is one of my favorite songs. And you hear the words, what it's talking about? It's not just for me. It's not just for you. It's for the people around us can be blessed.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's powerful. And so we're so happy to have you. This was an awesome interview. And I'm so glad that we are FF fast friends because we're going to be doing some stuff together. You are a go-getter and a go-giver. And so we just appreciate you. And so thank you for being a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as well.
Yeah. So as we go today, just remember to be kind, to help somebody else, make a difference in your community. You can start right where you are. Cherelle talked about HBCU and the impact that she's making there. If you attended the HBCU, you should be giving some money back. And I know everybody are in different positions and people have different levels of income, but guess what? No one turns away $5. President Obama ran a whole campaign on $1 gifts, right? $5 and $20 gifts and raised some of the most money in history. If we pool our money together, collective impact and resources, we can make a difference in our community. Just like Cherelle James. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.